time. It looks like we have a quorum present, so we'll be ready to get started as soon as you are.
Thank you, Steph. Good morning, members of the MAG Transportation Review Committee. This meeting is now called to order at 10 o'clock a.m. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I will do the roll call alphabetical by member agency. Ted Wolf with Apache Junction. Paul Patney with the Arizona Department of Transportation.
Here.
Thank you. Raj Thowdam, City of Avondale. Scott Ziprich, City of Buckeye.
Here.
Hal Marin, Town of Cave Creek. Jason Crampton, City of Chandler.
Here.
Thank you. Jorge Gastelum, City of El Mirage. Romer Truly with the Federal Highway Administration.
This is Romer.
Thank you. Christopher Salas, Town of Florence. David Janover, Town of Fountain Hills.
Here.
Thank you. Jason Hafner, Town of Gilbert.
Present.
Thank you. Shahid Abbas, City of Glendale.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Chair Bridges, City of Goodyear.
Through minor miracles of technology, I am here. And thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, for running the meeting.
Thank you so much. Bob Thaxton, Town of Guadalupe.
Here.
Keith Drunaski, City of Litchfield Park. Scott Node, City of Maricopa.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair Wilcox, you are here. RJ Zeter, City of Mesa. Sam Kaya as proxy for Shar Johnson, Town of Paradise Valley. Do we have a proxy for Adina Lund at Peoria? I know she retired recently.
Yes, Chris Lemke with Peoria.
Chris Lemke, thank you, Chris. Joseph Brown, City of Phoenix.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, thank you. John Kraft as proxy for Christopher Wanamaker, Pinal County.
Yes, good morning, Steph. I'm here.
Good morning, thank you. Mohammed Youssef, Town of Queen Creek.
1 minute.
Here.
Mark Ratna Corpella as proxy for Mark Melanchenko, City of Scottsdale.
Here.
Thank you. Kristen Taylor as proxy for Eric Boyles, City of Surprise.
Yep, I'm here. Good morning.
Thank you, Kristen. Shelley Seiler, City of Tempe.
Here.
Thank you. Randy Babchuk, Town of Tolleson. Herschel Workman, Town of Wickenburg. Grant Anderson, Town of Youngtown.
Here.
Thank you, Grant. Let me just quickly confirm there is a quorum. All right, and was there anyone I missed? Okay, Mr. Vice Chair, with 18 members here, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Steph. Our next item is the call to the audience. MAG provides the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. Members of the public are invited to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting and will be included in the meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Mr. Vice Chair, we did not receive any written public comments today for the call to the audience or any other items on the agenda.
Great, thank you, Steph. Move to item number 3. Our next item is the MAG Transportation Policy and Planning Director's Report. Tim Stroh will provide the report.
Thank you and good morning, Vice Chair Wilcox and members of the Transportation Review Committee. I have a few updates this morning for the group. I first want to congratulate ADOT and the Gila River Indian community for receiving a $95 million infra grant for the I-10 Loop 202 to State Route 387 project. This grant will now fully fund the corridor and will allow ADOT to move forward with construction later this year. If you recall, this 26-mile section of I-10 is the last remaining segment of I-10 between Phoenix and Tucson that only has 2 lanes of traffic. So this project will be adding a third additional lane in the median, both in the east and westbound directions for the entire 26-mile corridor. We'll also be extending the HOV lane in each direction on I-10 from Loop 202 to Riggs Road and improving interchanges and crossroads for enhanced capacity and safety. They'll also be replacing the aging and narrow Gila River bridges and installing freeway management technology to allow for the installation of sensors, cameras, variable message signs, and other highway safety-related technology. This is a pretty important project for not only the region, but for the state of Arizona. So again, congratulations to ADOT and the Gila River Indian community. Next item is a closeout reminder.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Grant, go ahead.
When's that going to be done?
I believe it's supposed to start construction later this year. And I think it's going to take, I know it possibly could be staged for the next few years. So I think they're still working on the exact schedule for right now.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Next item is a closeout reminder for the committee. The 2024 closeout requests are going through the MAG committee process right now and will be considered for approval at the regional council next week. MAG staff will be reaching out to agencies on February 1st to let them know the next steps, assuming the item is approved at regional council. Please contact Patrick Stone with any questions after the meeting. Next item is a crossing guard training update. MAG safety staff and agency partners will soon begin planning efforts for the 2024 crossing guard training workshops that typically take place at the end of July, early August. We have Phoenix and a large contingent of West Valley partners with a few from the East Valley already participating, but we are continuing to look for increased East Valley participation in the planning and facilitation of the workshops. If any agency has staff that would like to participate in this important regional effort, please contact Margaret Herrera or Chris Gottsacker after the meeting with any questions. The trainings will begin in February. Mr. Vice Chair, my last item is I want to welcome a new staff member to the committee. I want to introduce Carrie Kessler to the committee. She was an intern with MAG last year and was recently promoted to a Transportation Planner 1 position in the Transportation Division. Carrie is now responsible for the Arterial Life Cycle Program and assists Patrick Stone with the TIP. Carrie will be presenting agenda item number 6 today regarding the ALCP status report. Mr. Vice Chair, that completes my update.
I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Stroh, for that update. Our next agenda item is the approval of the consent agenda. Items 4A and 4B are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on any of these items?
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Jason Hafner with the town of Gilbert. I just wanted noted that on the meeting minutes from last meeting, Mr. Node's name is misspelled under the Transportation Policy and Planning Director's report.
Thank you very much for that comment.
Thank you. Apologies for that misspelling. We'll make sure we get it corrected for the final posting.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 4A through 4B?
Anderson, I so move.
I'll second it. Jason with City of Chandler.
Great. Grant Anderson made the motion and Jason Crampton seconded the motion. We will have those participating in the meeting online to take part in a voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. This is to speed up the voting process. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their cameras. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names and cameras that are not on. Can I have a voice vote for those online? Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Staff, can you take a roll call vote of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their cameras?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Everyone had their cameras on. Great work today. So no roll call needed. We can proceed.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. We'll move to item number 5, the 2020 census boundary smoothing. That'll be presented by MEG Transportation Analyst Steph Stern. This item is on the agenda for recommendation of acceptance. Steph?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the TRC. As noted in the information summary for this item, boundary smoothing is largely a technical process that allows local agencies and MPOs to work with their state DOT to fill in gaps and smooth the edges of the census-defined urban areas. This does not increase federal funding or population in the census count. And the reason why it matters for transportation and why we're here today is that it will allow for federal funds to be spent on the properly classified roadways in urban areas. With that brief introduction, I will turn it over to Lucas Murray from ADOT, who has led this effort, to give the presentation.
Thank you, Steph, and thank you everyone for your time today. So yes, as Steph said, my name is Lucas Murray. I work for ADOT MPD, and I was the project manager for this urban boundary smoothing project this time around. Urban boundary smoothing happens every 10 years following each decennial census. And so we just finished up our process this time around. If we could go to the next slide. And so what smoothing is, Steph did a great job at explaining it. Essentially what it is when the census creates their urban areas, they don't take into account features that are important for transportation planning. And so I have an example here of the Phoenix West Goodyear Avondale census urban area. It's the hashed red area. And you can see Interstate 10 is the gray line that's in the upper middle portion of the image. And part of the census urban area is actually going down the median of Interstate 10, meaning that one side would be considered urban, whereas the other side would be considered rural. If we can go forward on this slide. And so what the Federal Highway Administration allows us to do is to expand or smooth those boundaries out. So this way, in this case, we were able to consider the entirety of Interstate 10, at least out past State Route 85, as an urban road. And they also allow us to expand into areas that are either developed or are expected to develop over the next 10 years because these smooth boundaries will apply for the next 10 years. Next slide, please. So FHWA had some rules when it came to smoothing. One of them was that we could only smooth urban boundaries that had at least 5,000 people, according to the 2020 census. In the MAG region, that included a list here, as you can see. There were some new urban areas that were added since 2010. For example, Buckeye North, just north of the White Tank Mountains, is a new urban area. And then we had some urban areas that were renamed. For example, Goodyear South used to be known as the Estrella urban area back in 2010. And so all of these areas were eligible for smoothing. Next slide, please. And so what we did is we started with the 2013 smooth urban boundaries as our base. We figured we've been using them for 10 years and they seem to be working pretty well for us. If you can move forward again. I'm sorry, if you could move forward on the slide. And so what we did then is we took those 2013 smooth boundaries and we adjusted them to the new 2020 census urban areas. So if there was a new census area added, we made sure that we created a smooth urban boundary around that new area. And then if there were places where the 2020 census moved outside of the smooth urban boundary that we had, then we adjusted our smooth urban boundary out so that way it was included in there. And then please move forward on the slide. We then created an interactive map that was available online to all COGS and MPOs, including MAG, where they could submit comments for areas that they wanted to additionally add or remove from our smooth urban boundary. And so those green blocks that you see in the map, those are the comments that were left over from representatives from MAG. And next slide, please. So the implications of smoothing, go ahead and hit forward on the slide again, I'm sorry. We had one concern that was brought up from other MPOs, and I wanted to address it up front. That's this smoothing process has no effect on federal funding distribution. Funds are distributed based on MAG's total population. It really has nothing to do with these smooth urban boundaries. So I want to be very upfront with that. If you can move forward on the slide. Where smoothing can have an effect is where those federal funds can be used. Federal aid cannot be used on rural minor collectors or local roads. It's that rural minor collectors was the key. If a road was an urban minor collector and it became a rural minor collector, it would no longer be eligible for federal aid to help with funding road projects. We do and have been working with other MPOs to help work around some of those issues. For example, some MPOs have chosen to reclassify their rural minor collectors into major collectors, which would make them eligible for federal aid again. And that's certainly been possible. And next slide. And so that's my presentation today. We finished our boundaries in December. We're still waiting to get them approved by FHWA, but we do not expect them to make any adjustments to them at this point. It's more of a formality of getting them finalized. If you have any further questions, again, my name is Lucas Murray. My email address is here. And we did hire Timmons Group, a consulting firm, to help us with this effort. And I wanted to just mention them for this. But again, thank you very much for your time today.
All right. Thank you, Lucas. If we could get the next slide, please. And assuming that there are no questions, the action requested for your consideration today is shown on the screen. Turning it back over to you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Steph. Do any members have any questions or comments on this item?
Mr. Chair, this is Jason with the City of Chandler. I just had a question on the attachments in the packet. It looks like there were multiple areas removed from the boundary in some of the Indian communities. I'm just wondering if that could have any impact on transportation funding in those areas, or if those areas are kind of outside the potential impacted areas for transportation funding.
Thank you, Mr. Crampton and Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I think I'll try to speak to this, and then Patrick Stone can step in and correct me if I misspeak. But the areas that were removed surrounding and near the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community were removed at their request. They wanted in their planning documents, their general plan, they identified those areas as being rural. So they wanted to stick with the way they identified the areas. And I believe the section of the Beeline Highway isn't eligible for some types of federal aid, but then it makes it eligible for other types, which is where Patrick might need to step in and finish my answer.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Transportation Review Committee. No, I think Steph did a good job. I would throw it back to Mr. Crampton. Jason, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad that kind of came from those communities, and that should work. So I appreciate the answer.
Thank you.
Very good. Are there any other questions from the members? If not, is there a motion for recommendation of acceptance for agenda item number 5?
This is Chris Bridges. I would move to approve.
Anderson, second.
Very good. The motion, the motion maker is Mr. Bridges, and the second is from Mr. Anderson. We will have those participating in the meeting online now take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Item moves forward. Oh, staff, can you take a roll call vote of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Everyone had their camera on, so no roll call vote necessary for this one.
Very good. The motion passes unanimously. The next item is the Arterial Life Cycle Program Status Report. This item will be presented by MEG Transportation Planner Carrie Kessler, our new member of the team. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the TRC. As he said, my name is Carrie Kessler, and thank you to Tim previously for the introduction. I'm happy to be with you all this morning. Today, I will be presenting on the Arterial Life Cycle Program Status Report from July through December of 2023. If I could go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So this report provides a snapshot of what is currently going on in the ALCP and how the program is doing. Next slide, please. As a reminder, the ALCP provides regional funding to widen existing streets, improve intersections, and construct new arterial segments. Additionally, the ALCP policies and procedures require a status report be produced twice a year. So this report is for the first half of fiscal year 2024. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of the revenue and finances for the ALCP. The Regional Area Road Fund, also known as RARF, is a portion of the half-cent sales tax allocated to the ALCP. In addition, the federal funds allocated to MAG, a portion of that is also set aside for the ALCP. I wanted to highlight that the actual RARF collections were 3% higher than the estimated collections, which is always good news. Next slide, please. So as shown, there are 59 projects in varying stages of the project, process, design, construction, or reimbursement. Notably, there are 14 projects planned to open to traffic, which is a great achievement as well. Even as the ALCP winds down towards its close in 2026, there is still lots of activity going on and projects still in progress. The lower right corner of the screen shows the planned reimbursements and obligations for 2024. Next slide, please. Again, this is showing the fund balances for both RARF and federal funds within the next couple of years as we come to the close of the ALCP in 2026. As shown, there's still quite a bit of federal funding available, and this allows for some flexibility and opportunities for things like federal fund advancement, which will be starting next month to use more of those funds. Next slide. Thank you. Included in your agenda packet is detailed information about each project underway in tables 3, 4.1, and 4.2, with those tables explained here. Next slide, please. Each status report, we like to highlight an ALCP project from the region. This cycle, we're highlighting the city of Peoria for their project at El Mirage Road from Loop 303 to Jomax Road. Regional travel demand models identify a continuous connection between Loop 303 and Jomax Road is needed to provide better access and to relieve congestion. And more information on this project is provided in the report in the agenda packet. Next slide. That is the conclusion of my presentation. This item is simply for information and discussion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carrie. Do any members have any questions or comments?
Anderson, I have a question. She mentioned a couple times that the ALCP is ending in 2026. Is that due to Prop 400 ending and can it be extended like we currently are trying to extend Prop 400?
Mr. Vice Chair and Mr. Anderson, thank you for that question. The ALCP in its current iteration will be coming to a close with the close of Prop 400, as you said, and the new ALCP will start pending the passage of Prop 479 with the election in November.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is Jason with the City of Chandler. Following up on that question, Carrie or other MAG staff, what is the plan for developing the guidelines, the rules, the policies for this next iteration of the ALCP? Is that something that we plan to start discussing here soon?
Yes. I don't know if Patrick wants to jump in, but I can say we are going to be developing those soon, and they are in process, and that will be brought to you guys as soon as it is ready. Patrick, if he wants to say anything as well.
No, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the TRC, Mr. Crampton. No, Carrie did a good job explaining that. Obviously, a lot of work is still contingent upon the successful passage of Prop 479 in November. That being said, obviously, we've already started contemplating what the next iteration of the ALCP will look like.
Thank you both.
Any other questions from the members? If not, this item was for information and discussion, so no action is required. So we'll move on to item number 7, post-COVID traffic trends in the MAG region. Item number 7 will be presented by MAG Transportation Data Program Manager Wang Zhang. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion. Mr. Zhang?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and committee members. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this presentation is mainly for providing you some updated information regarding the traffic trends in the region for the last 2 years in terms of how the community is settling to the new normal post-COVID. Let's go to the next slide. So first of all, let's look at the traffic volume of vehicle miles traveled. So MAG started to track this traffic volume level since COVID. I think everybody understands. It took us 1 year till the spring of 2021 for the traffic volume to be back to the pre-COVID condition, which we regarded the first week of March in 2020 as 100%. And since then, in the last 2 years, 22 and 23, traffic volume in the region continued to increase. And we have also observed the highest traffic volume for last year in the year of 2023 since COVID. Let's go to the next slide. So this is information regarding how the traffic congestion, particularly on our freeway network, look like in the last 4 years. It took us 3 years for traffic congestion to be fully back to pre-COVID condition. So since 2020 in March, traffic congestion has decreased a lot, and until the spring of 2023, the last spring, we have observed a similar amount of the traffic volume in our regional freeway network. Even though we have returned to a similar level of the traffic congestion since last spring of 2023, but the congestion patterns and the bottlenecks on our freeway network have changed. So we will visit the more details in next several slides. Let's go to the next slide. So first, the interesting thing we find is there's more travel occurring in weekend, particularly on Saturday. If I can have your attention on the graphic on the left-hand side, that shows you, typically the level of the traffic volume in our region by day of the week. Typically, Friday is the highest traffic volume day among 7 days, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, pretty much at the same level. Monday is the lowest among weekdays, and Saturday and Sunday are significantly lower than the weekdays. But when we look at the graphic on the left, which shows the data points of this trend, in 2007, 2019, and 2023, you can see the trends among the weekday pretty much stay, but we observed more traffic particularly on Saturday. As you can see, it continues to increase. We also noticed there's no congestion, observed on the freeway network during Saturday as well, which is shown on the graphic to the right-hand side. Let's go to the next slide. So in the next several slides, let's look at how the congestion has evolved on our freeway network. In this quadratic presentation, we mean to give you the snapshot of the traffic congestions for 4 years, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 for the same time of the first week of March of each year. So, for example, this one is showing the regional perspective of morning traffic at 7:30 in our region of those 4 years. As you can see, there's only minor changes that we observed, particularly comparing 2023 to 2020 before the COVID. Let's go to the next slide. So, for example, in 7:30, if you focus on 2020, on the top of the left hand and the bottom right, which is 2023. If you compare these two snapshots of the 7:30 traffic in this particular areas, we notice there's more traffic congestion happening on I-10 eastbound in the West Valley. However, on the US 60 westbound and the East Valley, we notice the congestion has reduced in 2023. Let's go to the next slide. We also monitor there's more traffic congestion during the noon time, which is essentially from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. For example, we're comparing noon times congestion at 1 p.m. here on this slide, 2020 versus 23. We notice there's more congestion, more slowing down on our freeways in 2023 during the noon time. Next slide. So similar concept, but then let's focus on the PM traffic at 5 o'clock PM. We definitely notice there's more changes and more bottlenecks changes in the PM as compared to the AM. Let's go to the next slide, the zooming position. For example, at 5 PM, let's go through them one by one. The TI between South Mountain Loop 202 and I-10 at the West Valley has shown more congestions, as you can see. Also, the TI between Loop 101 Agua Fria and I-10, also located in the West Valley, has seen more traffic, particularly on Loop 101 southbound, approaching that particular interchanges. On the East Valley, the Loop 202 Red Mountain eastbound has shown less traffic in 2023 as compared to pre-COVID. Let's go to the next slide. Another interesting finding is I-17 southbound. As you can see, in 2020 before COVID, the traffic was pretty much free-flowing on the southbound at the PM, but now there's more congestion occurring on the southbound of I-17 as observed in the last March of 2023. Let's go to the next slide. So let's shift it to the southern part of the region. A new bottleneck occurred on I-10, both directions, south of the TI between Loop 202, South Mountain and I-10, as circled in the blue circle. And also similar to the morning's traffic on US 60, we also noticed there's less congestion on US 60 eastbound in the PM. So that's pretty much all the congestion updates and bottleneck updates for our regional network. Let's move on to the next slide. So this graphic shows how the heavy truck travel pattern looked like in the last 4 years since COVID. We observed more travel of the heavy trucks since COVID, particularly in the year of 2022. 2022 marks as the highest, heavy truck volume since COVID. The 23 heavy truck travel is still high, but also is a little bit lower than 2022. So overall picture of the heavy truck VMT travel, we believe it's about 20 to 30% higher than 4 years ago. I believe this is my last slides. And again, this presentation is for your information. If you go to the next couple slides, it will be showing my contact information just in case you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wong. Do any members have any questions or comments on the presentation?
Yes, I have one quick question. Thanks. That was great. It was very informative and interesting. And I see that you have a few before graphs, March 6th, but in a lot of those graphs, it would be nice to see 2019. That's sort of a before and after comparison for a full year. That would be helpful as sort of a baseline, but no, it was very informative and appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your suggestion. We can definitely add 2019 to that, to this comparison. Yeah.
I have a question, Chair. This is Shahid. Can we get the same information for the major arterials, north, south, east, west, through our cities? That will be more helpful and relevant to us, to make our decisions and plan for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Shahid. I think this is a work in progress. That's what we're working on right now, which is to gather more data from the arterial network. I know this presentation is mainly based on information we've gathered connected from the freeway network, but we understand arterial network in the region carries even more VMT in the region. So we definitely need to, do this work and to gather more information to help answer that questions. In terms of the traffic volume and congestion that is happening in our regional arterial network.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from members?
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, I have a question. With the increased population in Maricopa County, you mentioned there is 20 to 30% truck percentage increase in the traffic stream. So given that we are the fastest growing county in the country, relatively speaking, 22 to 23 or 21 to 23, do you have any percentage of overall traffic in the area? Because that's factor as well.
Thank you, Mr. Yusuf, for your question. I think, that's what we understand as well. Increase of the population has contributed to those changes of the traffic. We're currently conducting a hospital travel survey, also try to understand exactly, from the travel demand side, how, commuters' travel behavior and patterns have changed. We noticed there's more traffic volumes, there's a higher, congestion in different part of the region. Definitely increased population is one of the contributions to that. More construction activities in the last few years is one of the reasons contributing to the higher heavy truck volumes. But it's a really complex question. We try to gather more information to be able to comprehensively understand it thoroughly. So that's why we're doing the hospital travel survey to help us understand that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the members? If not, this item was for information and discussion, so no action is required. We'll move on to item number 8, member agency updates. Do any members have any updates for the committee? Duly noted. We'll move on to item 9, request for future agenda items. Are there any requests by the committee members for an item on a future agenda?
We should get a update on that ALCP start of what they're looking at for the ALCP for the Prop 479. We should get that relatively soon, I would think.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, like Carrie and Patrick stated earlier in the presentation, we're working on it right now, and when it's ready for prime time, we'll absolutely be bringing it through the committee process to get everybody up to speed.
Thank you.
We'll move on to are there any other requests by committee members for a future agenda item? If not, the next meeting of the Transportation Review Committee will be on Thursday, February 22nd 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. With no further business, today's meeting is adjourned at 10:40 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Great job, all.